All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into one of the most intense rivalries in college football, the Holy War.
BYU versus Utah.
More than just a game.
It's a clash rooted deep in the history and culture of Utah.
And trust me, it ignites passions like you wouldn't believe.
I think what makes this rivalry so fascinating is how it reflects the social and religious landscape of the state.
Yeah, you've got BYU, the private university owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Going head-to-head with Utah, the flagship public university.
So right off the bat, there's this inherent tension, right?
Absolutely. The name Holy War itself kind of speaks volumes.
No kidding. It's like the whole state picks a side and holds its breath every season.
But let's rewind a bit. When did this Holy War actually kick off?
Yeah, where does the story really begin?
Well, that's where things get a little interesting. BYU officially recognizes the first game is taking place in 1922.
Okay.
A game they lost to Utah, by the way.
Oh.
However, Utah claims a much earlier start, all the way back in 1896. A game they also say they won.
Wow. So we've got two sides claiming the first victory. This rivalry was intense from the get-go.
Definitely sets the stage. And speaking of competition, let's look at the overall win-loss record.
Lay it on me. Who's got the upper hand?
Well, currently, Utah holds a pretty commanding lead in the series, 62 wins to BYU's 35.
Wow.
Plus 4 ties sprinkled in there over the years. And to really rub it in, Utah had a 9-game winning streak that lasted from 2010 to 2019.
9 games. Ouch. BYU fans must have been counting down the days until that streak ended.
To add some perspective, BYU didn't even snag a single victory against Utah until 1942.
So you're telling me it took them over 40 years to finally beat their rivals. The anticipation for that first win must have been off the charts.
I can only imagine. But rivalries are rarely one-sided.
Right. So did BYU ever have a period of, let's say, dominance?
Oh, absolutely. We rewind back to the late 1970s to the early 1990s. BYU was a force to be reckoned with. During those years, they racked up an incredible 13 wins to just 1 loss against Utah.
Talk about a turnaround. So it's been this back-and-forth battle for supremacy over the decades. And that unpredictability is what makes it so compelling, right?
Keeps everyone on the edge of their seats. But it's not just the players, you know? There are some really interesting coaching connections, too.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, get this. Utah's current head coach, Kyle Whittingham, actually played for BYU back in the day.
No way.
And BYU's head coach, Kalani Sitake, was a coach at Utah before taking the helm at BYU.
Hold on, so you're telling me these coaches are facing off against their alma mater or their former colleagues?
Exactly.
That adds a whole other layer of intrigue.
It really highlights how intertwined these two programs are.
Even while they're battling it out on the field.
Absolutely. And speaking of battling it out, things got even more interesting when both teams ended up back in the same conference.
That's right. They're both in the Big 12 now. Which means we're guaranteed an annual Holy War showdown.
You got it. And the Big 12 actually designated this matchup as one of their 4 protected rivalries.
Protected rivalries. What does that mean exactly?
No matter what happens with those crazy conference realignments, BYU and Utah are locked in for an annual showdown.
As long as they're both in the Big 12.
You got it. The conference basically recognizes this rivalry is a cornerstone of college football.
So they're saying, rain or shine, these two teams are going to face off. Got to be a lot of pressure knowing the whole conference is watching.
Definitely adds to the intensity.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's dig into some of those memorable moments from the Holy War's past. I've heard there were some pretty jaw-dropping wins on both sides.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking blowouts for the ages.
All right, give me the highlights.
When it comes to blowouts, BYU holds the record for the largest margin of victory. In 1980, they trounced Utah with a score of 56-6.
50 points. Now that's a statement win.
But Utah's no stranger to dominating performances either. Remember their crushing 49-0 victory back in 1922?
A shutout in one of the rivalry's earliest games. That sets the tone for sure.
Speaks volumes about the intensity from the get-go.
Speaking of intensity, let's fast forward to a more recent chapter. BYU's victory in 2021, the one that finally snapped Utah's 9-game winning streak.
That's the one. BYU pulled off a 26-17 win.
A huge moment for BYU, right? Breaking through Utah's seemingly unbreakable hold on the series.
Definitely shifted the narrative.
And now, with both teams in the Big 12, it's like they've taken an already heated rivalry and cranked up the heat even more.
You could say that.
We've covered a lot of ground, the historical roots, the back-and-forth battle for dominance, those coaching connections. But what about some of the individual game stats and stories, the ones that really bring this rivalry to life?
Oh, we've got plenty of those.
Well, hold that thought, because after a short break, we'll be diving into those fascinating details.
Welcome back.
All right, so before the break, we were talking about those jaw-dropping wins, and you were just about to share some of those crazy individual game stats and stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
The ones that make this rivalry so legendary.
We're talking edge-of-your-seat moments.
All right, hit me with it.
Well, we already touched on those blowouts. Remember BYU's 56-6 win in 1980?
Yeah, their biggest margin of victory, right?
50 points, the kind of game that gets passed down through generations.
You know, I can't even imagine being on either side of that scoreboard.
But early on, Utah had its fair share of dominant performances.
Oh, yeah.
You remember their 49-0 win back in 1922?
Yeah, a shutout in one of the rivalry's earliest games. Talk about setting the tone.
It really highlights those shifting tides of power we talked about earlier.
It's like one team's unstoppable, and then boom, the pendulum swings back the other way.
Keeps things interesting. And now that they're back in the same conference, every game carries even more weight.
It's more than just bragging rights now.
Conference standings, potential playoff implications.
The stakes are higher than ever.
You got it.
Any particularly crazy moments from individual games that come to mind?
Oh, there are so many. One that really captures the rivalry's spirit is BYU's last-second victory in 2006.
Okay.
They were down by a touchdown, seconds left on the clock, and they managed to score and convert a 2-point conversion to win the game.
No way. A last-second win against your arch rival? The atmosphere must have been electric.
Absolute pandemonium. And then on the flip side, you have Utah's performance in the 2008 game. They crushed BYU 48-24.
So even in a heated rivalry like this, anything can happen.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the history, the wins and losses, the coaching connections, those crazy moments. What does this all mean for the future of the Holy War?
The million-dollar question. With both teams in the Big 12 and that protected rivalry status, we're guaranteed to see these two powerhouses clash every year.
And with that recent BYU win, who knows what the future holds? Could we be on the verge of a power shift?
Time will tell. One thing's for sure. The Holy War will continue to be one of the most anticipated and fiercely contested rivalries in college football.
A rivalry that truly transcends the game itself,
It really does.
reflecting those deeper cultural and social currents within the state of Utah.
Absolutely.
It's been a wild ride through the history books.
It has.
Shocking blowouts, nail-biting finishes, even a bit of coaching crossover. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought. What does the future hold for this legendary rivalry? Will BYU continue to challenge Utah's dominance, or will the Utes maintain their grip on the series? The Holy War will continue to captivate fans for years to come. It's a testament to the passion, the intensity, and the enduring spirit of this incredible rivalry. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Holy War. You know, we spent all this time talking about those big wins, those crushing defeats, and those wild moments that make the Holy War so exciting.
Yeah, but it goes beyond all that, doesn't it?
It really does. There's something special about this rivalry, something that sets it apart.
I think it's the passion, the pure intensity that both sides bring to the field.
It's like it's woven into the fabric of the state.
The Holy War, it's more than just a game. It's a part of life in Utah.
Those water cooler conversations on Monday morning,
Bragging rights for years.
the whole community rallies around their team. It's a shared experience, even if you're on opposite sides.
You know, sometimes rivalries can divide people,
Yeah.
but this one, I think it brings them together too.
That's like a common thread.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Holy War, I'm going to leave you with this. What does the future hold?
Who knows?
Will BYU keep chipping away at Utah's dominance, or will the Utes hold on to their crown?
And the only thing we know for sure is the Holy War is far from over.
It's going to keep captivating us for years to come.
Absolutely.
It's a testament to the heart and soul of college football. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Holy War.